Months passed since Earth declared its independence, and the initial excitement began to fade. The reality of life without the Council's support started to sink in. Trade routes that once connected Earth to distant planets had collapsed. Colonies, scattered across nearby star systems, found themselves stranded, unable to get the supplies they needed to survive. Food shortages became common, and medicine was almost impossible to find. People grew anxious as their lives became harder with each passing day. John Harper, captain of the starship Odyssey, felt the weight of this new world more than most. His crew worked tirelessly to deliver what little they could to struggling colonies. But it was never enough. Every time they arrived at a colony, John saw the same desperate faces. Families waited anxiously for shipments of food and fuel, only to be disappointed when he told them there wasn't much left to give. It broke his heart to see how quickly hope turned into despair. One such colony was located on a barren moon called Delta 7. When the Odyssey docked there, John stepped out to meet Lisa Turner, the young engineer he'd spoken to months earlier. She greeted him with a forced smile, her eyes tired and hollow. "We're running on fumes," she admitted, shaking her head. "The generators are failing, and half the population is sick. If we don't get help soon, we won't last another month." John nodded grimly. He knew Lisa wasn't exaggerating. Delta 7 was just one of many colonies facing collapse. The situation was dire, and there was no easy solution. As he walked through the colony, he saw children huddled together for warmth, their parents too weak to care for them. Machines sputtered and groaned, barely holding together under the strain of constant use. The air smelled stale, heavy with the scent of desperation. Back on Earth, Rachel Monroe continued her work at the Lunar Research Facility. Her focus had shifted from sustainable energy solutions to finding ways to stretch limited resources. Every day brought new challenges. Equipment broke down faster than she could fix it, and replacement parts were nearly impossible to come by. Still, Rachel refused to give up. She spent long hours tinkering with old machines, trying to make them work just a little longer. Despite her determination, Rachel couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease around her. Rumors spread about rogue factions taking advantage of Earth's weakened state. These groups operated outside the law, attacking vulnerable colonies and stealing whatever they could carry. Some even claimed that former allies within the Council had turned against Earth, punishing them for leaving. No one knew who to trust anymore. Rachel's thoughts often drifted back to the mysterious signal she had discovered. It still bothered her that Earth's government had dismissed her findings so quickly. Something about it felt important, like a clue waiting to be uncovered. She tried to push forward with her research, analyzing every piece of data she could gather, but without proper tools or support, progress was slow. Then, one evening, while reviewing old transmissions, Rachel noticed something strange. The signal seemed to pulse rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. She ran simulations to confirm her suspicions and realized it might not be random noise after all. This was intentional, a message, perhaps even a warning. Excited by the discovery, Rachel decided to act. She contacted John Harper again, hoping he would agree to investigate further. John listened carefully as Rachel explained her findings, over a secure channel. At first, he hesitated. The Odyssey was already stretched thin, delivering supplies to colonies on the brink of collapse. Taking time to chase an unknown signal seemed risky, but Rachel's passion convinced him. "If there's even a small chance this leads to help," she said, "we can't ignore it." Reluctantly, John agreed. He rerouted the Odyssey toward the source of the signal, knowing it would mean delaying deliveries to several colonies. The decision weighed heavily on him, but he trusted Rachel's instincts. As the ship ventured deeper into uncharted space, the crew prepared for anything. They didn't know what awaited them, but they knew it couldn't be worse than the chaos consuming the galaxy. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Daniel Carter faced mounting pressure. his administration struggled to address the growing crises caused by independence. Critics accused him of underestimating the challenges of breaking away from the council. Protests erupted in major cities, demanding answers and action. Some called for reconciliation with the council, while others pushed for aggressive expansion into unclaimed territories. The divide within his own government grew wider with each passing day. Daniel tried to stay focused, reminding himself why he had fought so hard for independence. He believed in humanity's potential to thrive without relying on others. Yet, the reality of their situation gnawed at him. Supplies dwindled, colonies crumbled, and rogue factions exploited the chaos. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Had he made the right choice? Was Earth truly ready to stand on its own? Amidst the turmoil, Rachel's plea reached Daniel's desk. She urged him to authorize further investigation into the mysterious signal, arguing that it might hold the key to solving their problems. After much deliberation, Daniel gave his approval. He didn't fully understand the science behind Rachel's claims, but he recognized the importance of exploring every option. Humanity needed hope now more than ever. As the Odyssey approached the source of the signal, tension filled the air. The crew monitored their instruments closely, scanning for signs of danger. Finally, they arrived at a system unlike any they had seen before. Planets lay in ruins, their surfaces scorched and barren. Debris floated aimlessly in space, remnants of ships and stations torn apart by violence. It was a graveyard, silent and haunting. John ordered the ship to scan for survivors. To their surprise, they detected faint life signs coming from a derelict vessel drifting near a shattered planet. Cautiously, John led a team aboard the wreck. Inside, they found a group of survivors huddled together, weak but alive. Among them was Sarah Blake, a former diplomat who introduced herself as the leader of the group. Sarah explained that the devastation was part of a larger pattern. Shortly after Earth left the Council, attacks began spreading across the galaxy. Entire star systems fell victim to ruthless invaders who showed no mercy. These attackers weren't acting alone. They served a shadowy empire known as the Dominion. According to Sarah, the Dominion saw Earth's departure as an opportunity to dismantle the Council and seize control of the galaxy. Hearing this, John realized the scope of the crisis went far beyond Earth's struggles. The Dominion posed a threat to everyone, not just isolated colonies or rogue factions. He asked Sarah if she knew anything about the signal Rachel had detected. She shook her head, saying it hadn't been active during her time in the region. However, she warned them not to underestimate the Dominion's reach. Their technology was advanced and their motives remained unclear. Returning to the Odyssey, John relayed everything he had learned to Rachel. She listened intently, piecing together the fragments of information. The picture emerging was bleak. The galaxy teetered on the edge of collapse, and Earth's independence had accelerated the process. Yet, amidst the chaos, Rachel clung to a glimmer of hope. If they could uncover the truth behind the signal, they might find a way to fight back. For now, the crew of the Odyssey pressed on, guided by Rachel's calculations. Each step brought them closer to answers, and possibly salvation. Back on Earth, Daniel wrestled with the implications of Sarah's story. He knew that humanity's survival depended on making tough decisions. Rejoining the Council wasn't an option. They viewed Earth as traitors. But standing alone wasn't working either. A new path had to be forged, one built on resilience and unity. As the stars loomed ahead, both Earth and the Odyssey braced for what lay beyond. The journey was uncertain, fraught with danger and sacrifice. But one thing was clear. The choices made now would shape the future of the galaxy. And, though the road ahead was dark, the faint light of hope burned brighter with each passing moment. The Odyssey continued its journey deeper into the unknown, guided by Rachel Monroe's calculations. The crew worked tirelessly, their movements precise but tinged with unease. Every jump through space brought them closer to the source of the mysterious signal, but it also carried the weight of uncertainty. What would they find? Would it be help, or something far worse? John Harper stood on the bridge, staring at the vast expanse of stars ahead. He felt the burden of leadership pressing down on him, knowing that every decision he made could mean life or death for his crew and the people counting on them. Rachel stayed in constant communication with the ship, her voice calm but urgent, as she relayed updates. She had spent countless hours analyzing the signal, trying to decode its meaning. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and she was convinced it held a message. But what kind of message? Was it a warning, a cry for help, or something else entirely? Her mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. As the Odyssey approached its destination, the sensors picked up faint energy, readings. The crew prepared for anything, arming themselves and running system checks. When they finally arrived, they discovered a hidden sanctuary nestled within an asteroid field. The location was cleverly concealed, protected by layers of rock and debris. It was clear that whoever lived here didn't want to be found. John ordered the ship to dock cautiously. As the crew disembarked, they were greeted by armed guards who eyed them suspiciously. After a tense exchange, the guards allowed them to enter, leading them to a sprawling underground settlement called Haven. The place was bustling with activity, filled with refugees from across the galaxy. People of all species mingled together, sharing stories of survival and loss. It was a stark reminder of how widespread the chaos had become. In the heart of Haven, they met Alex Rivera, a former council operative turned resistance leader. Alex was a tall man with sharp features and piercing eyes. He spoke with authority, his words carrying the weight of someone who had seen too much. He explained that Haven was a neutral zone, a refuge for those fleeing the destruction wrought by the Dominion. These rogue factions, as Sarah Blake had warned, operated with ruthless efficiency, conquering weaker worlds and plundering their resources. The Dominion, Alex revealed, was behind it all, a shadowy empire bent on domination. Alex went on to explain that the Dominion had been planning this takeover for years. Earth's departure from the Council had created the perfect opportunity. Without Earth's contributions, the Council lacked the resources to maintain stability, leaving smaller worlds vulnerable. The Dominion exploited this weakness, striking quickly and decisively. Their ultimate goal, Alex believed, was to impose their rule over the entire galaxy. Rachel listened intently, her mind racing with questions. "What about the signal?" she asked. "Do you know anything about it?" Alex shook his head. "We've never detected anything like that before. If it's real, it might be your best chance at finding allies or weapons to fight back." Hearing this, John realized the importance of their mission. They couldn't afford to turn back now. Whatever the signal was, it might hold the key to stopping the Dominion. With Alex's blessing, they prepared to leave Haven and continue their search. Before departing, Alex provided them with valuable intelligence, including data recovered from destroyed ships. This information pointed to a central hub controlling the Dominion's fleet, a potential weak point in their defenses. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter faced increasing pressure. His administration struggled to address the mounting crises caused by independence. Supplies were dwindling, and rogue factions exploited the chaos, attacking vulnerable colonies. Protests erupted in major cities, demanding answers and action. Some called for reconciliation with the Council, while others pushed for aggressive expansion into unclaimed territories. The divide within his own government grew wider with each passing day. Daniel tried to stay focused, reminding himself why. He had fought so hard for independence. He believed in humanity's potential to thrive without relying on others. Yet the reality of their situation gnawed at him. Supplies dwindled, colonies crumbled, and rogue factions exploited the chaos. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Had he made the right choice? Was Earth truly ready to stand on its own? Amidst the turmoil, Rachel's plea reached Daniel's desk. She urged him to authorize further investigation into the mysterious signal, arguing that it might hold the key to solving their problems. After much deliberation, Daniel gave his approval. He didn't fully understand the science behind Rachel's claims, but he recognized the importance of exploring every option. Humanity needed hope now more than ever. As the Odyssey resumed its journey, the crew prepared for the challenges ahead. Using the data provided by Alex, Rachel identified the location of the Dominion's central hub. It was heavily fortified, guarded by an armada of warships. Breaking through would be nearly impossible, but they had no other choice. Together, Rachel, John, and Alex devised a plan. They would infiltrate the hub, disable its systems, and cripple the Dominion's operations. But the mission would require sacrifices. John volunteered to lead a team into enemy territory, knowing the odds were stacked against them. Rachel stayed behind to coordinate support efforts, rallying volunteers from Haven to assist in the assault. As the fleet prepared for battle, Daniel addressed the people of Earth, urging them to stand united against the looming threat. For the first time, humanity recognized that survival depended not on isolation, but on cooperation. The day of the assault arrived, and the air aboard the Odyssey was thick with tension. John gathered his team, giving them a final briefing. "This isn't just about us," he said, his voice steady. "It's about everyone out there fighting to survive. We're their only hope." His words resonated with the crew, filling them with a sense of purpose. As the fleet approached the Dominion's hub, alarms blared and enemy ships moved to intercept. The battle was fierce, with lasers flashing and explosions lighting up the void of space. John's team fought valiantly, pushing forward despite overwhelming odds. Inside the hub, they encountered advanced security systems and heavily armed guards. Every step was a struggle, but they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. Rachel monitored the assault from afar, her heart pounding as she watched the battle unfold. She coordinated with the volunteers from Haven, directing their efforts to provide cover for John's team. Her hands trembled as she issued commands, but her resolve never wavered. She knew that the fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. Back on Earth, Daniel watched the news reports with bated breath. Images of the battle flooded the screens, showing the bravery of those fighting against the Dominion. He felt a surge of pride, mixed with guilt for the decisions that had led them here. He vowed to do whatever it took to make things right, even if it meant admitting his mistakes. Inside the Dominion's hub, John and his team finally reached the core. It was a massive structure, humming with energy. They planted explosives, setting a timer to ensure they had enough time to escape. But as they prepared to leave, they were ambushed by Dominion forces. Outnumbered and outgunned, John made a split-second decision. He stayed behind to hold off the attackers, giving his team a chance to get away. "Go!" he shouted, his voice firm despite the chaos around him. "I'll catch up." His team hesitated, torn between loyalty and duty. But they knew there was no time to argue. With heavy hearts, they followed his orders, leaving John behind to face the enemy alone. As the explosives detonated, the hub erupted in a fiery explosion, crippling the Dominion's operations. The fleet outside cheered as the enemy ships began to retreat, their coordination disrupted. But amidst the celebration, Rachel felt a pang of sorrow. She knew what John's sacrifice meant, and tears streamed down her face as she whispered a silent thank you. Back on Earth, Daniel acknowledged the cost of their freedom. Reports of the battle spread quickly, inspiring hope among the people. They realized that cutting ties with the Council hadn't been the solution. It had been a mistake. Only by working together could they overcome the challenges ahead. Rachel returned to her work, determined to honor John's memory. She dedicated herself to ensuring that humanity never again turned its back on the stars. And though John's loss was deeply felt, his courage became a symbol of hope for a galaxy rising from the ashes of chaos. In the end, Earth learned that independence wasn't freedom, it was folly. Only by embracing connection could they find true strength. And so, under a renewed commitment to peace, the stars once again shone brightly, guiding the way forward. The aftermath of the assault on the Dominion's central hub left the galaxy in a state of fragile uncertainty. The explosion had crippled the Empire's operations, scattering their fleet and disrupting their control over conquered territories. But the victory came at a heavy cost. John Harper's sacrifice weighed heavily on everyone who knew him. His bravery inspired awe, but his absence left a void that couldn't be filled. Rachel Monroe struggled to process her grief, throwing herself into her work as a way to cope. She knew John would have wanted her to keep moving forward, to focus on the future rather than dwell on the past. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter faced the daunting task of rebuilding. The battle against the Dominion had shown humanity the dangers of isolation. While Earth's independence had started with pride and hope, it quickly revealed its flaws. Cutting ties with the Council hadn't made Earth stronger, it had made them vulnerable. Now they had to find a way to reconnect with the galaxy without losing their identity. Daniel called for an emergency meeting with his advisors, determined to chart a new course. "We can't go back to how things were," he said, pacing the room. "But we also can't keep going like this. We need allies, people who understand what we're fighting for." His words sparked a heated debate. Some argued that rejoining the Council was the only option, even if it meant swallowing their pride. Others believed Earth should forge new alliances, reaching out to smaller worlds and resistance groups instead. The discussion dragged on late, into the night, with no clear resolution in sight. Finally, Daniel made a decision. He authorized Rachel to lead a diplomatic mission, sending her to Haven to negotiate partnerships with the refugees and resistance fighters there. Rachel accepted the responsibility reluctantly. She wasn't a politician or a diplomat. She was a scientist. But she understood the importance of the mission. If Earth hoped to survive, it needed friends. With a small team by her side, she boarded the Odyssey once again, setting a course for Haven. As the ship traveled through space, Rachel reflected on everything that had happened. It felt like a lifetime ago when she had first detected the mysterious signal. That discovery had set off a chain of events that changed the galaxy forever. When they arrived at Haven, Alex Rivera greeted them warmly. He had heard about the destruction of the Dominion's hub and praised their courage. "You've given us a chance," he said, shaking Rachel's hand. "Now it's up to us to make the most of it." Rachel explained Earth's situation, emphasizing the need for unity. She proposed forming a coalition, a new alliance built on mutual respect and shared goals. Unlike the Council, which had often exploited weaker worlds, this coalition would prioritize cooperation and fairness. Alex listened carefully, nodding in agreement. "It won't be easy," he admitted, "but I think it's worth trying." Over the next few weeks, Rachel worked tirelessly to build trust with the leaders of Haven. She met with representatives from various species, listening to their stories and addressing their concerns. Many were wary of Earth, remembering how it had abandoned the Council and left others to fend for themselves. Rachel acknowledged these fears, promising that humanity had learned from its mistakes. Slowly but surely, she began to win them over. Meanwhile, on Earth, Daniel faced mounting challenges. The rogue factions that had exploited the chaos were still active, attacking colonies and stealing resources. Supplies remained scarce, and morale was low. To make matters worse, rumors spread of surviving Dominion forces regrouping in secret. The threat wasn't gone. It was merely lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Daniel knew he had to act quickly. He ordered increased security measures, deploying troops to protect vulnerable colonies. At the same time, he launched a campaign to boost morale, reminding people of their resilience and determination. "We've been through worse," he told a crowd during one speech. "And we've come out stronger every time. Together we'll rebuild. Not just our planet, but our place in the galaxy." His words resonated with many, reigniting a sense of hope. People began volunteering to help however they could, whether by repairing damaged infrastructure or growing food in makeshift greenhouses. Even children pitched in, collecting scraps of metal and plastic to recycle into useful tools. It was a slow process, but progress was visible. For the first time in months, smiles returned to faces, and laughter echoed through the streets. Back at Haven, Rachel finalized the details of the coalition. It wasn't perfect. There were still disagreements and tensions, but it was a start. The agreement outlined principles of equality and cooperation, ensuring that no single world would dominate the others. Each member pledged to contribute resources and manpower, working together to restore stability to the galaxy. When Rachel announced the formation of the coalition, cheers erupted throughout Haven. It was a moment of triumph, a glimmer of light in an otherwise dark time. As Rachel prepared to return to Earth, Alex pulled her aside. "This is just the beginning," he said, his expression serious. "The Dominion isn't gone yet, and there are still plenty of enemies out there who want to see us fail. Stay vigilant." Rachel nodded, understanding the gravity of his warning. She thanked him for his support and promised to stay in touch. Then she boarded the Odyssey, ready to share the news with Earth. When Rachel arrived home, she was greeted as a hero. News of the coalition spread quickly, lifting spirits across the planet. Daniel embraced the development, using it as proof that humanity could adapt and grow. He called for a global celebration, inviting representatives from Haven and other allied worlds to attend. It was a historic event, marking the dawn of a new era. During the ceremony, Daniel addressed the crowd, his voice filled with emotion. "Today we stand united, not just as humans, but as citizens of the galaxy. Our journey hasn't been easy and it's far from over. But together, we can face whatever comes next." As fireworks lit up the sky, Rachel stood quietly, watching the festivities unfold. She thought about John and all the others who had sacrificed so much to get them here. Their courage had paved the way for this moment, and she vowed never to forget it. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had taken a bold step toward freedom, but true strength lay in connection, in reaching out to others and building something greater than themselves. For now, the galaxy was healing. Colonies received aid, trade routes reopened, and life began to stabilize. But Rachel knew better than anyone that peace was fragile. The Dominion might rise again, and new threats could emerge at any time. Still, she chose to focus on the present, cherishing the hard-won victories and the bonds that had been forged. As the celebrations continued, Rachel looked up at the stars, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Earth had learned a valuable lesson. Cutting ties wasn't freedom, it was folly. Only by embracing connection could they find true strength. And so, under a renewed commitment to unity, the stars shone brightly once more, guiding the way forward. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely. The coalition Rachel Monroe had helped create began to take shape, bringing together worlds that had once been divided. Earth played a central role in this new alliance, offering its technology and resources to aid recovery efforts. Colonies that had been on the brink of collapse started to rebuild, their people finding hope in the promise of unity. Yet, despite these strides forward, challenges remained. The scars left by the Dominions Attacks ran deep, and not everyone trusted the coalition's intentions. Rachel worked tirelessly to strengthen the bonds between member worlds. She traveled frequently, visiting colonies and listening to their concerns. Some were hesitant to share their resources, fearing they might be taken advantage of again. Others worried about the lingering threat of the Dominion. Rachel assured them that the coalition was different from the Council. It wasn't about control or exploitation. It was about working together to create a better future. Her sincerity won over many skeptics, though some doubts lingered. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter faced his own struggles. The transition from isolation to cooperation wasn't easy. Many citizens still questioned whether joining the coalition was the right move. Critics argued that Earth should focus on itself rather than helping others. Daniel listened to their concerns, but stood firm in his belief that humanity's survival depended on collaboration. He reminded people of the lessons they had learned during their time of independence. "We tried going it alone," he said during one town hall meeting. "It didn't work. If we want to thrive, we need to stand with others." His words resonated, with some, but not all. Protests erupted in major cities, with groups demanding more attention to Earth's needs. Supplies were still limited, and rebuilding efforts required significant resources. Daniel knew he couldn't ignore these issues, so he implemented a series of reforms aimed at improving life on Earth while maintaining commitments to the coalition. Factories ramped up production of essential goods, and scientists developed innovative solutions to stretch available materials further. It was a delicate balancing act, but Daniel refused to give up. Meanwhile, reports began to surface about surviving Dominion forces regrouping in secret. Scouts sent to explore distant regions returned with troubling news. Remnants of the Empire were consolidating power, preparing for another assault. The coalition held emergency meetings to discuss how to respond. Some members advocated for preemptive strikes, arguing that it was better to act now before the Dominion grew stronger. Others urged caution, warning that hasty decisions could lead to disaster. Rachel attended these meetings, her expertise in science and strategy proving invaluable. She proposed a plan to monitor Dominion activity closely, using advanced sensors and probes to track their movements. At the same time, she suggested strengthening defenses around key colonies and establishing supply lines to ensure they could withstand an attack. Her ideas were met with approval, and the coalition moved quickly to implement them. As preparations continued, Rachel found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. So much had changed since she first detected the mysterious signal. That discovery had set off a chain of events that reshaped the galaxy and her own life. She thought about John Harper often, remembering his courage and sacrifice. Though his loss still weighed heavily on her, she drew strength from his example. He had given everything to protect others, and she vowed to honor his memory by doing the same. One day, while reviewing data from a recent probe mission, Rachel noticed something unusual. A faint energy signature appeared near the edge of known space, similar to the one she had detected months earlier. Her heart raced as she analyzed the readings. Could it be another signal, or was it something else entirely? She shared her findings with Alex Rivera, who agreed it was worth investigating. Together, they decided to send a small team to explore the area. The mission fell to Sarah Blake, the former diplomat who had survived the Dominion's attacks. She volunteered eagerly, eager to contribute after spending so long recovering from her ordeal. Accompanied by a handful of volunteers, she boarded a scout ship and set course for the source of the energy signature. The journey took several days, during which Sarah reflected on how far she had come. When she had first fled her destroyed homeworld, she had felt lost and powerless. Now she was part of something greater, a movement dedicated to rebuilding what had been broken. When they arrived, they discovered a hidden outpost surrounded by dense asteroid fields. The structure was old and crumbling, clearly abandoned for years. As they explored, they uncovered records detailing experiments conducted by an ancient civilization. These experiments involved advanced technology capable of manipulating energy on a massive scale. Sarah realized the potential implications immediately. If the Coalition could harness this technology, it might provide the edge they needed to defend against the Dominion. Excited by the discovery, Sarah contacted Rachel and shared the news. Rachel wasted no time organizing a team to retrieve the data and bring it back to Earth. Scientists pored over the information, deciphering its secrets and adapting it for modern use. It was a breakthrough, one that gave the Coalition renewed confidence in their ability to face the Dominion. But the Dominion wasn't idle. Surviving forces launched a surprise attack on a remote colony, catching everyone off guard. The assault was brutal, designed to send a message. The Dominion was still a force to be reckoned with. The Coalition responded swiftly, sending reinforcements to drive the invaders back. Casualties were high, but the colony managed to hold its ground thanks to the defensive measures Rachel had helped put in place. The battle served as a wake-up call. The Dominion wasn't going to disappear quietly. If anything, it was growing, bolder. Coalition leaders convened another emergency meeting to discuss next steps. After much debate, they agreed on a bold strategy, a coordinated strike against the Dominion's remaining strongholds. It was a risky plan, requiring precise timing and flawless execution. But they had no other choice. Allowing the Dominion to regain its footing would mean certain doom for the galaxy. Preparations for the final assault consumed everyone's attention. Ships were outfitted with the newly developed technology, giving them an advantage in combat. Troops trained rigorously, honing their skills for the fight ahead. Morale was high, fueled by the knowledge that this was their chance to end the threat, once and for all. Even those who had doubted the Coalition's effectiveness now rallied behind the cause, united by a common goal. As the fleet gathered for the attack, Rachel stood aboard the Odyssey, watching the stars. She thought about all the sacrifices that had brought them to this moment, the lives lost, the hardships endured, the friendships forged. It had been a long and difficult journey, but they were finally ready to confront the darkness head-on. Daniel addressed the people of Earth one last time before the assault began. His voice trembled with emotion as he spoke. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every world that has suffered under the Dominion's tyranny. We fight for peace, for unity, for a future where no one has to live in fear. Let us show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. The battle was fierce, lighting up the void of space with flashes of fire and bursts of energy. Coalition forces fought valiantly, pushing forward despite heavy resistance. Thanks to the new technology, they gained the upper hand, overwhelming the Dominion's defenses. One by one, the enemy's strongholds fell until only the central command remained. Rachel monitored the assault from the Odyssey, her hands gripping the console tightly. She watched as the final stronghold crumbled, signaling the end of the Dominion's reign. Cheers erupted throughout the fleet, echoing across the galaxy. It was over. They had won. In the days that followed, celebrations broke out on Earth and beyond. People danced in the streets, sang songs of victory, and honored those who had given their lives for the cause. Rachel joined in the festivities, allowing herself a rare moment of joy. For the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about the future. Earth had learned a valuable lesson through its trials. Independence wasn't freedom. It was isolation. True strength came from connection, from reaching out to others and building something greater than oneself. The Coalition represented that ideal, a testament to humanity's resilience and determination. As the stars shone brightly above, Rachel looked up and smiled. The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was healing. and for the first time in years, she believed that brighter days lay ahead. The galaxy was quieter now, but the scars of war lingered. The final assault against the Dominion had been a success, but it left behind a trail of destruction and loss. Colonies that had survived the initial attacks were still recovering, their people working tirelessly to rebuild what had been taken from them. Supplies were stretched thin, and many struggled to find hope amidst the rubble. Yet, despite the hardships, there was a sense of determination, a belief that they could rise from the ashes stronger than before. Rachel Monroe returned to Earth after the battle, her mind heavy with thoughts of what lay ahead. The coalition she had helped create was fragile, held together by shared trauma and necessity rather than trust. She knew that maintaining unity would be as difficult as achieving victory. Worlds that had once been enemies now had to learn how to cooperate, how to share resources without resentment, and how to move forward without forgetting the past. It was a monumental task, one that required patience, understanding, and compromise. Back on Earth, Daniel Carter faced similar challenges. His administration worked around the clock to address the needs of both his own people and the coalition's members. Food, medicine, and building materials were distributed carefully, prioritizing the most vulnerable colonies. But even with these efforts, dissatisfaction grew among some citizens. They felt that Earth was giving too much and receiving too little in return. Protests erupted again, with critics demanding that Daniel focus solely on Earth's recovery. Daniel listened to their concerns but refused to abandon the coalition. He understood the risks of isolation better than anyone. "We've seen what happens when we turn our backs on others," he said during a press conference. "It leads to chaos, suffering, and death. If we want a better future, we have to work together, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." His words didn't satisfy everyone, but they resonated with enough people to keep the coalition intact. Slowly, Earth began to see the benefits of cooperation. Trade routes reopened, bringing much-needed supplies and fostering relationships between worlds. Scientists collaborated on projects aimed at improving agriculture, energy production, and medical care. These advancements weren't just practical, they symbolized the power of unity. Meanwhile, Rachel threw herself into her work, determined to ensure that humanity never forgot the lessons of the Dominion's reign. She proposed creating a research institute dedicated to studying the ancient technology discovered at the hidden outpost. This technology had played a crucial role in defeating the Dominion, and Rachel believed it could also help prevent future conflicts. By understanding its potential and its dangers, scientists could develop tools not just for war, but for peace. The idea gained widespread support, and soon construction began on the Rachel Monroe Institute for Galactic Innovation. Located near the Lunar Research Facility, the institute became a hub of collaboration, attracting brilliant minds from across the galaxy. Researchers worked side by side, sharing knowledge and ideas in ways that transcended cultural and species barriers. For Rachel, seeing this spirit of cooperation brought a sense of fulfillment she hadn't felt in years. But not everything was smooth sailing. Reports surfaced of rogue factions continuing to exploit the chaos caused by the Dominion's collapse. These groups operated outside the law, attacking weaker colonies and seizing whatever they could carry. Some even claimed to be remnants of the Dominion itself, vowing to restore its empire. The coalition responded swiftly, deploying security forces to protect vulnerable areas. Still, the threat loomed large, a reminder that peace was never guaranteed. One day, while reviewing data from a recent probe mission, Rachel noticed something unusual. A faint signal appeared on the edge of known space, pulsing rhythmically like the one she had detected months earlier. Her heart raced as she analyzed the readings. Was it another message, or was it something else entirely? She shared her findings with Alex Rivera, who agreed it was worth investigating. Together, they decided to send a team to explore the area. The mission fell to Sarah Blake, who had recently returned from her previous expedition. She volunteered eagerly, eager to contribute once again. Accompanied by a small crew, she boarded a scout ship and set course for the source of the signal. As they traveled through uncharted space, Sarah reflected on how much she had changed since fleeing her destroyed homeworld. Once filled with fear and uncertainty, she now felt a deep sense of purpose. She was part of something greater, a movement, dedicated to rebuilding what had been broken. When they arrived, they discovered a massive structure floating silently in the void. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a blend of organic and mechanical elements that pulsed with energy. As they approached cautiously, they realized it wasn't abandoned. It was alive. The structure communicated with them, using light, patterns, and vibrations to convey meaning. Through careful study, Sarah and her team deciphered fragments of its message, warnings about the dangers of unchecked ambition and calls for harmony between civilizations. Excited by the discovery, Sarah contacted Rachel and shared the news. Rachel immediately recognized the significance of the find. This structure represented a new frontier, not just in terms of technology, but in understanding the universe itself. It offered insights into the balance between progress and responsibility, reminding humanity of the importance of humility and cooperation. The coalition convened an emergency meeting to discuss the implications of the discovery. Leaders debated whether to keep the structure's existence secret or share it with the galaxy. In the end, they decided transparency was the best approach. Teams of scientists and diplomats visited the site, learning from its messages and adapting its teachings to their own cultures. It became a symbol of hope, proof that even in the darkest corners of space, there was beauty and wisdom waiting to be found. As the galaxy continued to heal, Rachel looked back on everything that had happened. So much had changed since Earth cut ties with the Council. Humanity had faced unimaginable challenges, made costly mistakes, and fought battles that tested their resolve. But through it all, they had grown stronger, more united, and more determined to build a better future. Daniel addressed the people of Earth one last time, his voice filled with gratitude and pride. "We've come a long way," he said, standing before a crowd gathered in a newly rebuilt city square. "We've learned hard lessons, made sacrifices, and forged bonds that will last for generations. Let us never forget where we came from or where we're going." Rachel stood nearby, watching as fireworks lit up the night sky. She thought about John Harper and all the others who had given their lives for this moment. Their courage had paved the way for a brighter future, one built on connection and compassion. Though the road ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, Rachel felt hopeful. Humanity had proven time and again that it could adapt, grow, and overcome. As the stars shone brightly above, Rachel smiled. The galaxy was far from perfect, but it was healing. And for the first time in years, she truly believed that the best was yet to come.